Hi Ashish, how are you?
Good, Satir.
So, me and Ashish, we are going to talk about setting up a restaurant business in this podcast. And I am a professional chef as well as a cafe owner. I've run cafe for many years. I've also set up many cafes in my lifetime. And I consult people whether they should or they should not open a cafe and
Yeah.
how to go about it. So I'm going to trouble Ashish in this podcast, in which he's going to ask me questions which I'm not going to be able to answer. So we're going to start with it. Go on, Ashish.
Yeah. So what happens is, I think when we talk about food as a business, when you talk to anyone, we see a lot of friends around who do excellent cooking, and we tell them, okay, why don't you get into food business? You cook so well, so why don't you get into food business? And we keep getting this advice left, right, and center. So I just wanted to know, and that is why I caught hold of Satvir, and I wanted to know how easy is to follow this advice. It's an easy advice to give, but is running a food business all that easy? So that is what we wanted to talk about, and that is what this podcast is about. And over a series of episodes, we'll explore how easy or difficult it is to run a food business and what are the nuances around food business. So let's see. The first question that I want to ask Satvir, and the first thing that comes to everyone's mind, is it actually an easy business to run? How easy it is to run a food business, or to start a food business, I should say?
It's very easy to start a food business.
Mm-hmm.
It's, it's the first thing that comes into your mind
Mm.
whenever you are sick of your job,
Mm.
whenever you want to switch career.
Mm.
It's the first thing that comes into your mind.
Right.
You really want to go think about a food business. Oh, it's so easy. I'm going to start with it. It is easy based on the scale you want to achieve.
Okay.
And it's tough on the scale you want to really go about.
Okay.
Let me explain this.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you're running only one dish
Mm-hmm.
and you just want to earn a couple of bucks,
Okay.
then it's a good business. For
Okay.
example, then you're not reliant on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
The easiest example is somebody selling Rajma Chawal.
Mm.
So they know they're going to sell it for 2 hours. They just need a place. They're going to
Mm.
sell it from the back of their vehicle.
Mm.
And they just want to make a couple of bucks
Mm.
at lunchtime or a dinner time or any time.
Mm.
Then it's an easy business.
Okay. Okay.
But once you think about setting up a cafe or
Mm.
a restaurant and a full
Mm.
thing all along, then what you know is literally redundant if you're not a
Mm-hmm.
professional.
Okay. Okay.
So
Interesting.
you might be making one good thing at home. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say you make really good Rajma Chawal.
Right.
But your restaurant isn't only going to sell Rajma Chawal, it's going to
Okay.
sell so much more.
Hmm.
So that's the place where people get into trouble.
Hmm.
So you really need to know
Hmm.
what you want and how
Hmm.
much of a level you want to achieve, how much money
Hmm.
you want to make,
Hmm.
then go about it.
Hmm. So the
And if
first
you want to
thing
trouble your
that
friends,
the person will have to narrow, from what I understand, is that food business is not a straight thing. Okay, I
it's
make
not.
good Rajma Chawal, let me open a cafe. That's not going to happen. I'll need to
No.
understand whether I need to run a food cart, whether I need to run a cafe, a restaurant, is what you're saying. So food in itself is nuanced. The food business in itself has a lot of things to consider, huh?
The easiest thing is, Ashish, here
Mhm.
that everybody cooks.
Right.
Whether you cook a Maggie
Hmm.
or you can cook a lamb, it
Yeah, I
depends
can I can
upon
boil
the
eggs. Yeah.
boil eggs. So basically everybody can cook to survive, right?
Right.
Now, whatever you cook, you like the flavor of it.
Hmm.
Like everybody loves only the flavor of the Rajma Chawal served by their mother,
Right. Right.
right? It's something you grew up with.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that the same Rajma Chawal are going to be loved by everybody else.
Right.
So that's the first thing,
Hmm.
right? Getting the flavor right.
Hmm.
But more to that is that it depends upon the kind of money you want to put in, the kind of effort you want to put in. There's a lot of equipment you need to buy. You might need help to run the business. You might be hiring professionals to run the business, or you might be doing it yourselves. Anyhow, no matter what scale you like, or whether it's a food truck or it's from the back of the car, rear of the car, or anything else, it's more to do with the kind of money and time you want to spend on it.
Okay.
Sometimes professionals run a cafe. Let's say a barista is there who's been running a cafe for somebody else for a long time, and he wishes to open a cafe for himself. So that's the final thought that comes into everybody's mind. But then he needs to assess that, will he be able to afford the rent? Will he be able to buy all the crockery, cutlery? Then comes the sitting, the decoration, the renovation of a place. Will he be able to afford everything? If he's able to afford everything, then it's a good business for him. But if it'll be a half-hearted thing, then only knowing how to make coffee is not going to get him a success.
Is not going
The
to
same
be.
for everybody at home. You might know how to cook one or two things, but running it professionally are different. People are going to come at different times, thinking about the same taste and quality they received the last time. You have to maintain. That takes practice, and that takes a professional touch.
Okay, so someone who's been told, okay, so if some friends of mine come and they always say that you make excellent boiled eggs. So, and what amazing thing you do when you boil eggs. No one boils eggs like you do. So, and I am thinking of starting a business. So, before even I start thinking on those lines, quitting my job and doing it, so what are the things that I should be considering? What all should I be considering even before I entertain this thought that let me start a business of my own?
The first thought that should come into your mind is it's easy boiling 6 eggs, half a dozen or a dozen. But think about it as a business, you'll be boiling 100 of them, right? At the right temperature, right time, you need the equipment. Are you ready to handle that big equipment?
Okay.
Right? Let's say you have a stove. You'll have 2 stoves, and you have 100 people standing outside your shop. Let's say 20 people, 100,
right,
rather than 100. Everybody orders 2 eggs. It's going to take 12 minutes for you to boil 1 egg.
Right.
Right? It's going to be the same whether you boil 1 or you boil 20 or you boil 40. But you need to be ready with 40 eggs at any point of time for those many customers. People don't like waiting. That's one part of it. Number 2, yes, you can boil really nice eggs. What's the USP of boiling eggs? Is the other part. No, I believe in that.
Right.
Like you boil really nice eggs. There might be somebody else who does the same.
You're right.
What's different are you going to do with it so that people only want to come to you for those boiled eggs?
You're right.
That's the second part. Third part, if you're in a corporate sector, you're making good money. Now you need to think, how many eggs do you need to boil to get the same amount of salary? Because your lifestyle is going to be the same.
Right.
Or whether you're ready to take major cuts in it. Only for one. Now, the third point is, let's say you boil really nice eggs and you can give people boiled eggs. When somebody else comes along, he starts serving an omelette, some other kind of eggs, poached eggs, something else. Then what? Will you be able to sustain that kind of a competition?
Okay.
Right? Last part is, there's a capital involved in starting a business.
Okay.
Just like any other business. I agree that the capital in certain kind of food businesses is less. If you want to boil eggs, let's say in the rear of your vehicle or a food truck, the
Hmm.
cost is different.
Right.
You want to do in a small place,
Hmm.
it's different.
Hmm.
You want to hire a big place where
Hmm.
there's a seating of like 20 people out there,
Hmm.
then it's a all ball game, all different ball game altogether.
Hmm.
What happens is that every time you move into a bigger place, you'll need to hire people to take care of it. The electricity rent, the other rent, the local
Hmm.
paperwork, it changes every time.
Every time. Hmm.
So all those costs come into being, and that's why running a food business is a tough thing.
Hmm.
Successfully.
Hmm.
Opening one is
Opening
a
it
real
is
tough,
easy, but running it is difficult. Yeah.
is a
And
real tough job.
does it really matter if I myself am able to cook well, like you said? So I'm just thinking aloud here. Just because I can cook well, but will I want to be behind the stove all the time in a cafe, or will I be running like a CEO? So whether I want to be the chief operating officer, cooking everything myself, or the chief executive officer. So what do you
So
think when people say that you cook really well? Is that reason enough to get into a business, or is it a practical thing? Because will you be able to cook everything yourself?
it is a practical thing. If you know how to cook, it will always
Hmm.
help you in the business
Hmm.
because then you'll be able to um, keep your recipes intact
Hmm.
for a longer time. You'll be
Okay.
able to serve the same quality all the time.
Okay.
But here comes the tough part.
Hmm.
You might cook good at home,
Hmm.
but just think about it
Hmm.
like this.
Hmm.
Let's say you have a party of 20 people at home and you're cooking all by yourself.
Right.
So how much time does it take you to serve like 20 people?
Hmm.
Think about.
Right.
It might take you 1 hour, 2 hours. It depends upon the menu,
Yeah.
right?
Almost the
But
entire day. Yeah.
entire day.
Yeah.
So now when you start cooking professionally,
Yeah.
so you're cooking for 20 people every hour.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
are you ready to commit to that kind of a labor
Hmm. Hmm.
all the time
Hmm.
and every day? Now
Hmm.
you'll be doing the
And every
same
day.
thing
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yeah. There
So
are no leaves in your own business then. And
there are
holidays
no
are the busiest ones, right? Especially when
busiest
it comes
ones.
to food business.
Especially in India, we don't get any leave. So
Right.
there's no Saturdays, there's no Sundays, or even elsewhere. There are very few
Elsewhere. Yeah.
fast food chains
Yeah.
worldwide
When
that I
when it's
see
a holiday for others, it's the busiest day for you as
is
a
the busiest day for you,
food business. Yeah.
food business. And now what happens is if you have a staff with you,
Hmm.
you're going to roster them and you're going to tell, all right, you can have a Tuesday off and you can have a Thursday off,
Hmm.
and holidays are a no go,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But when you're doing everything by yourself,
Hmm.
then that's the first problem. Now,
Hmm.
after COVID, there's another challenge.
Hmm.
If you fall sick
Hmm.
for a couple of days, who's going to
Hmm.
run your business? How are
Hmm.
you going to take care of it?
Right.
The food business, you can't leave it to others.
Others, yeah, because
Yeah,
you are the only one who knows the recipe. You are the only one who's going to
exactly.
be behind the stove.
Unless and until you don't have processes
Hmm.
for that business,
Hmm.
doing it every day is not successful. I'll give you easy examples.
Hmm.
People go for food trucks.
Right.
So there are a couple of friends who will always get together, open up a food truck,
Hmm.
and it'll do really well for a couple of days.
Right.
It'll be a hit.
Hmm.
Everybody likes the place.
Hmm.
But what happens is when all four of them or five of them,
Hmm.
they sit down by the end of the month,
Hmm.
sometimes they realize that the amount of effort they have put into this
Hmm.
and the output they're getting
Hmm.
is so low that it's not
Yeah,
worth it.
it's not worth it. Yeah. Especially people who are coming out of corporate jobs. I think people who are coming out of cushy corporate jobs, it is it's a rude awakening call. Suddenly you realize you've made very less money for the amount of physical effort that has gone into the entire business. So it is a very
Yes,
labor intensive business, as I understand,
it's a
right?
very labor intensive business. Let's say you want to open up a cafe
Hmm.
today.
Hmm.
So the first thing what most of the people from corporate would do is they'll go either sit in barista, CCD,
Hmm.
Starbucks, or
Hmm.
some other big chain.
Hmm.
What happens is they only look at the basics out there, which are being presented to you,
Hmm.
which are being only shown to
Hmm.
you,
Hmm.
basics.
Hmm.
So you think, oh, what do they have? It's just they have a couple of chairs here,
Hmm.
they have a coffee machine, a little
Right.
cutlery,
Right.
right? And they have a ketchup bottle. That's about it. I can do the
Right.
same.
I can
It's
run the
not going to
business.
be tough
Yeah.
for me. Yeah, I can run the business.
Hmm.
What happens is nobody counts that how many cups are going to break every day.
Right.
Do they need a dishwasher?
Hmm.
Are they going
Hmm.
to automate something? Are they
Hmm.
going to have a real dishwasher,
Hmm.
right? Or somebody's
Hmm.
going to be doing manually going to do that job,
Hmm.
right? What's the cost to it?
Hmm.
If you buy a machinery, it has a
Hmm.
different cost to it. Then you will be paying in electricity.
Right.
If you have a person standing there, then there's another issue whether
Hmm.
he'll come to job tomorrow or not.
Or not. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
another thing. So
Hmm.
people are not ready to factor those things in.
Hmm.
And once they get into a business and they start factoring in,
Hmm.
that's the time that they realize, oh my God,
Hmm.
now we've
Hmm.
done a mistake.
Hmm.
Then they keep on pouring more money into the business
More money. Hmm.
and it leads nowhere.
Yeah.
So no matter what kind of a food business you want to do, it
Hmm.
has to be planned perfectly.
Hmm.
You need to know your ingredients,
Yeah.
then start with it.
Hmm. The tricky part here is, I think, the lack of guidance as well. What I feel, Satveer, is the very few people who are ready to share their secrets. A person who's running a food business, if I go to that person and ask him, okay, give me the inside out of the business, they're not ready to share it. One, it could be insecurity for sure, but the other reason could be it'll take time. It's a complicated business. Will that person be ready to take out time and share everything with you?
It's just
So
like in any,
yeah.
it's like just in any kind of a job. Now,
Hmm.
when somebody joins in a new place in a corporate,
Hmm.
nobody's going to come up and help them out and tell
Hmm.
them, oh,
Hmm.
you need to do this, boss is going to be happy,
Hmm.
you're going to get a promotion tomorrow. Nobody's
Hmm.
going to help you,
Right.
right?
Right.
Even if somebody does, they're going to not tell you everything, the whole
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
They're going to tell you in installments, right?
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
happens in food business is that you need to go through it to learn. That's
Hmm.
one part, or you
Hmm.
hire a consultation,
Right. Right.
right? Either you take losses and
Hmm.
learn,
Hmm.
and you have really good bank balance to
Hmm.
weather those losses, right?
Hmm.
Otherwise, what's going to happen is that you're going to
Hmm.
take time,
Hmm.
and if you take a consultant,
Hmm.
a proper consultant, right, who
Hmm.
knows what they're doing,
Hmm.
now he's going to teach you in 1 month or 1.5 months
Hmm.
everything you need to know about the business.
Hmm.
And knowing everything about business is more important
Hmm.
before you start running it.
Before you start the business. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So easiest example I'll tell you is that
Hmm.
when let's say you were talking about boiled eggs, right?
Hmm.
Or rajma chawal. We can take any
Hmm.
of those things.
Hmm.
So let's say we talk about rajma chawal.
Hmm.
Now you can make rajma chawal. That's one thing.
Hmm.
But if you know how to make rajma chawal
Hmm.
and you change a couple of ingredients here and there,
Hmm.
you can actually run a Mexican food truck.
Ah, really? Uh-huh.
So there's not much of a difference. So
Hmm.
you add lemon and cilantro
Hmm.
to rice and they become cilantro rice. You can buy it mixed. But
Yeah.
you need to know about it and you
Yeah.
need to
Hmm.
think about the menu. So what
Hmm.
happens is that let's say we take one raw material. I'm
Hmm.
just giving an example here.
Hmm.
So let's say it's beans, right?
Hmm.
So what all can you do with those beans
Hmm.
is that's going to make your business successful.
Right.
So it can be a bean salad,
Hmm.
it can be rajma chawal,
Hmm.
it can be a Mexican curry
Hmm.
with cilantro rice or
Hmm.
something else.
Hmm.
It can be a soup, a bean
Hmm.
soup, a tortilla soup,
Hmm.
anything,
Hmm.
right? But you need to know that with one ingredient,
Hmm.
one base ingredient, how
Hmm.
many things I'm going to be able to cook,
Hmm.
how
Hmm.
to store them.
Hmm.
The another problem is at home, we don't store things.
Hmm.
So you're going to cook rajma chawal, everybody's going to use it.
Hmm.
You're going to the leftovers are going to go into the fridge. You don't mind
Hmm.
the taste deteriorating a bit, and you're going to eat it the next day. When
Hmm.
professionally, it doesn't work like that.
Hmm.
Everybody wants fresh food. Everybody wants
Right.
good quality food.
The quantity, how much to
The-
make,
yes,
how to minimize your losses, because what is left over at the end of the day is a
yes.
loss for
Yes,
you.
you need to
Yeah.
know how to store it, how
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
store it properly so that it stays fresh for a longer time.
Right. Right.
So for a home cook, learning these things are tough.
Hmm.
But yes, there are certain businesses where
Hmm.
home cooks do
Hmm.
wonderfully good,
Hmm.
especially in today's date and age,
Hmm.
with all the Swiggy and Zomato coming in.
Hmm.
They can do wonders.
Hmm.
For example, if you run a parantha
Hmm.
shop
Hmm.
from home,
Hmm.
it's only online business,
Hmm.
it's a cloud kitchen thing,
Hmm.
it can work wonders because
Hmm.
now you have only two things to make parantha and curd,
Hmm.
or parantha and
Hmm.
ghee or
Hmm.
butter or whatever.
Hmm.
So most of the other things are packaged.
Hmm.
It's the same dough. The
Hmm.
roti dough is not going to
Hmm.
change,
Hmm.
and the filling does,
Hmm.
right? And the home cooks are great about it.
Hmm.
And people
Hmm.
would love the paratha
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
But here's the thing,
Hmm.
what's the timing you're ready to give?
Hmm.
So the paranthas usually sell early morning
Hmm.
and late at
Late
night.
evenings, yeah.
So are
Hmm.
you ready to
Hmm.
take out those times for your
Hmm.
business?
Hmm. Hmm.
All those
So for
factors come.
people, this gives me an idea that for people who are, since we are talking about just starting to think about a food business, what do you suggest? Would it be, although we'll be talking about it in detail in upcoming episodes as well, guys, and you can always drop us a message on whatever questions you have around food. But one thing that pops to my mind is that would that be a good option for someone who's just thinking of starting a food business? Before you get into it full time, you quit your full time job, get into it, would it be better, Satvir, to just try out with home cooking, start with a single product, and maybe post your job, you're putting in 3 or 4 hours, fulfilling orders for these delivery apps, and see whether it is something that you are liking or not before you go all in and quit your day job and then
Um,
eventually feel, oh, this was not for me. So what do you
it,
suggest?
it depends on the kind of food you want to make.
Hmm.
That's the primary thing
Hmm.
here. Let's say I give you an example of paranthas. You
Hmm.
can run it from home.
Hmm.
Rajma chawal, kadi chawal, stuff like this,
Hmm.
you can run from home. It's a
Right.
good thing.
Right.
But when you want to do real bowls,
Hmm.
right? Rice with 6 different kind of bowls,
Hmm.
right? Then you get into trouble.
Hmm.
Because with a shorter span of selling,
Hmm.
you'll still be preparing food,
Hmm.
uncertain quantity,
Hmm.
and then the wastage is going to run you over. So it
Hmm.
has got to be a full-time
Hmm.
job,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Even somebody who packs tiffins,
Hmm.
for you, it's like you get delivered with a tiffin twice a day or thrice a day.
Hmm.
But for them, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
You get up in the morning, cook your
Hmm.
breakfast, send it
Hmm.
back,
Hmm.
then they
Hmm.
go for the lunch, dinner.
Hmm.
It's a full-day job.
Hmm.
But they know how much quantity they're getting, they're
Hmm.
cooking.
Hmm.
But when it comes to cloud kitchen,
Hmm.
you really don't know the quantity.
Yeah. Hmm.
So that's the problem it runs into.
Hmm.
And if you are traveling in your job,
Hmm.
that becomes a whole lot
Hmm.
difficult for you to run the business.
Hmm.
What will happen is that today you cook a quantity,
Hmm.
you keep the raw material in the fridge,
Hmm.
but then the other person,
Hmm.
next day you're
Hmm.
traveling.
Right.
So everything's going to go for waste,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
not going to end up
Yeah.
making profit. The
Yeah.
third point is the kind of thing you want to cook.
Hmm.
So if you want to go for pastas and stuff like that, and the
Hmm.
quality you want to provide,
Hmm.
right? So you need to be very clear what you want to sell.
mm, mm.
Before you start, go
Before you
for
start.
a complete analysis of the business.
Mm,
That what's the costing?
mm,
How much do I need to sell?
mm,
What's the base cost of everything,
mm,
including labor,
mm,
including energy cost, including rentals,
mm,
everything.
mm,
And come up with a realistic number. I know many
mm.
people who started their business and they said, "Oh, selling 1,000 coffees a day is not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
It's
Yeah.
not a big deal." And they
Yeah.
end up selling 10,
Yeah.
right? So
Mm,
that's the problem. Now,
mm,
if you are paying rental for a place, let's say,
mm,
and you divide the rental
mm,
over an X amount of cups of coffee,
mm,
right? Let's say
mm,
100 cups of coffee, and
mm,
your rental is 100 rupees.
mm.
Now, that'll be 1 rupee a cup.
Right.
But let's say you're selling only 60,
Mm,
then it's not 1 rupee, then it's
right.
1.5 rupees. Now,
Right.
if you had a profit margin of 50 paisa
Mm,
or let's
mm,
say a rupee
mm,
in that cup,
mm.
now 60 paisa are going back to the rentals.
Right.
Of if some machinery you were using or some equipment you were using,
Mm,
it malfunctions,
mm,
right? You have to go for the repairs and so
mm.
many things happen, right?
Right.
Then what?
Mm.
And the worst thing is that people don't factor in other things, that the cleanliness, that all
Yeah,
those
yeah. The
space you need to
breakage,
get
the
done.
crockery, the returns, I think that's a very big thing. A replacement of the food item which will
Replacement.
come back to you. Yeah.
It is a tough business,
Mm, mm.
but
So your
if you do
final
it and
advice for those who want to get into this business or who've been told by their friends that you boil really good eggs. So what are those two or three things that you would suggest that they should consider on level one the moment they start thinking of starting a food business? So what are those two, three things that they need to think or be
I
prepared
think the
for?
first is, do you have enough time?
Okay.
Is the first.
Hmm.
Second is the finance.
Hmm.
Do you have enough money?
Hmm.
Or you have people backing your idea,
Hmm.
right? Is somebody ready to invest in your idea?
Hmm.
That's the second thing.
Hmm.
The third thing, are you going to cook it yourself?
Hmm.
Do you know a chef
Hmm.
or a cook
Hmm.
whom you're going to hire to cook for you, or you're going to cook it for yourself? You need to be very clear about it.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
third and the most important thing is how much you want to make out of it.
Hmm.
And you need to analytically sit
Hmm.
and think about
Hmm.
how many units can you sell a day
Hmm.
with the right marketing cost. And for the first 3 months,
Hmm.
forget about making money.
Okay. Hmm.
Don't even think about it.
Hmm.
And if you have a friend you don't like,
Hmm.
push them to a food business.
Yeah, so push your boss into starting a food business every time
Food business.
yeah,
He's gonna
every
like you
time you are
forever.
sharing a lunch with him, tell him you cook really well. Get into a food business.
Every time. Every time you open your tiffin, it's a different game altogether for the world.
So
Look, everybody
basically, it
wants a
is
tiffin.
tough. It is not that easy. If you know how
No,
to
it's
cook,
not.
does not mean that food business will be easy for you, but
No.
it is doable. It is completely something that one can consider. But before you consider starting your own food business, you need to be very clear that are you committed full time into it, and it will take effort, money, time, everything.
And the last is your product unique or not,
Right. Hmm.
right? If you're
Hmm.
making waffles,
Hmm.
then you might be the only person making waffles around,
Hmm.
right? Then
Hmm.
you won't have any competition. But if
Hmm.
you're boiling eggs, there's gonna
I
be a
will.
lot of competition
I'm telling
around.
you, I boil really good. But yeah, good, good,
So
good.
it all depends upon how you want to run the business, how
Hmm.
much money you want.
Hmm. Hmm.
In the end, the satisfaction in the end comes from how much you earn from
Hmm. Hmm.
at the end of the day.
Hmm.
And that has to be calculated before you plunge into this. I would never recommend anybody who doesn't have a big, sizable chunk in their bank to go for a food business without.
Before, yeah, yeah,
There
yeah.
are very few lucky ones that go through. Here's some stats, like 80% of the food business, people who get into food business, they end up shutting their shops in the first year.
Oh, really? Uh-huh.
Yeah. So in India, it's higher than others because we don't get a backing elsewhere, right? Out of those 80%, would you believe 50% would always have loans to pay off after that? You can't take big amount of loans running a food business. It's not a profitable thing, right? When it comes to cloud kitchens, people need to understand that the aggregator is going to take a big sizable chunk of the revenue.
Yeah.
And the revenue flows through them. So that's the second part. It also depends upon the kind of place you're living. So if it's a tier A city, it's a different thing altogether. It's
Right.
open 24/7.
Rentals in a tier 1 city would be a big chunk
Through the
of your
roof.
business, whereas in a tier 2, tier city, tier 2, tier 3 city, it might be a little less. But
Yes,
then
but
the
tier 1
market size will also be
all,
less then.
yes. The tier 1 is going to offer you a lot more customers as compared to tier 2 and tier 3.
Tier 2 and tier 3. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That part is there. But then you can't do it all by yourself in a tier 1. Even if you're on a juice shop, you think about opening up a juice shop, you'll still require 2 or 3 people to run along with you in a tier 1 city.
Right.
Because the amount of people who are going to come to your shop is going to be way more than the other tier 2 or tier 3. The tier 3 cities have another problem that everything shuts down early.
Early, yeah.
So you're going to lose on that sale.
The window
And
of operations is really
less.
small. Yeah.
Another example I think is in tier 1, people grab their breakfast while going, right? They still, it has started, right? A coffee or something. But that won't happen in tier 2 and tier 3.
Tier 3 cities. Yeah. So you are only
You won't find
catering
people
to
doing that.
lunch and onwards.
Yes. And that's another problem. So there's so many things that come into running a successful business.
One needs to really think before committing oneself to a food business, from what I understand. So yeah, but it is like we discussed, it is doable. And I think in the upcoming episodes, we should delve more into it. I would want that we also share your story, how you got into food business. And listeners, if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. We will see you in the next episode. Happy cooking!